coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. It's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific Time. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host coming to you live from Los Angeles every week. This show is about humanity. It's about spirituality. It's about creativity. And it's about passion. It's about being your best you in this big, beautiful world and inspiring others to do the same. And every week, my friends, it may be my show, but it's always your experience. My guest today is amazing. She is a wonderfully talented spiritual practitioner, speaker, author, motivator, a wonderful radio host in her own right. And it's such an honor to have her here. Please welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience. The wonderful Colby Rebel is here. How are you, my friend?
Oh, hi, Sheena. Thank you. I'm doing great. So good to see you.
It's good to see you too, right? It's good to see anybody, but it's especially good to see you. I read your stuff, and we're both Aries, right? And I read your stuff, and I love that you, like me, right? Just go and go and go and go and fill every day with as much passion and service as you can. Does it feel like work to you, or does it just feel like just doing your thing and walking your path?
I love it. It definitely feels like it's just walking my path, living my purpose, but also just this whole perspective of enjoying every day and enjoying life. And if we have stresses and we have things that kind of come up for us like anybody else, but it feels like to me there's a sense where I feel like there's a sense of really enjoying life and enjoying living and enjoying definitely serving spirit. I mean, you know this just from connecting and reading and doing all that. Like, how incredible is it to have that connection and make people feel validated and heard and to be able to have that insight? It's really a beautiful blessing.
I agree. And it's funny because people ask me all the time, I think as an interfaith minister, how often do you pray? Do you pray? And I always say that I just kind of keep the channel open all the time and am continually having a conversation and a co-creation with spirit. It's not like when I, want a Maserati, then I get on my knees and pray for it. I just always leave the channel open. So there's just communication, because I feel like for all of us, not just those of us with gifts, but everybody on the earth, right? When you learn to open that channel, spirit has lovely, inspiring, motivating things to say to you every day. And everybody, I think, would be much happier, more connected to self, and feel better inside themselves if they just allowed those messages to come in.
Absolutely. And I agree with you, too. I don't close down, I guess, as we would say, right? The vibration is always there. We just switch the channel over. So it's static. I kind of static until spirit sometimes really knocks and they say, "Oh, excuse me, we're calling you in." But no, I think we're really lucky to be able to do this. Some people, I'm sure you've heard this too, where some people say, "Oh, it must be a curse to know that." And I've never ever felt that way or looked at it that way. It just feels amazing and good.
I agree. My mom was a psychic medium, so she grew up in the South and born in 1933, right? Where it wasn't until we moved to California and she was in her 50s that she really started talking about it. She thought her gifts were great, but I know for her, because there wasn't really a community to talk to about what was going on inside of her. And we're so fortunate we have that. Her empathy was hard. Not understanding why so much information was coming in and not knowing what to do about all of the feeling everybody's feels, right? And that was something it took her a long time to get a handle on. And I'm very thankful that she, at a young age, even before either of us knew I had gifts, that she sort of taught me how to, filter those messages so you don't have to let every single thing in. Is that why you sometimes go to the static? Is that just like a little break? You go to the
Right.
static, so
Go to the static so that I can have a physical experience, or that if I'm
yeah,
around people, that they don't feel like I'm constantly tuning into them, just out of respect for myself and my experience, and those for other people as well.
yeah,
So, when the channel's open, it's game on. And when there's static, it's like, okay, we know spirit's there. There's the
sure.
energy there, and we're just making a decision to not choose into it. That's all.
I agree, and I think spirit is also really good about allowing you to put the do not disturb sign on the door, right?
Oh,
Because I think that spirit
absolutely.
understands. They understand that we are supposed to be spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And if we, as spiritual practitioners, as light workers, are never allowed to have a human experience, then it puts us at a disadvantage to help others with their human experience, right? I mean, you have to, my mama used to always say, you have to go through all the things so then you can teach. And I think,
Yes.
if we're not letting ourselves go through the stuff, feel the emotions, deal with the empathy and the different things people feel, the roadblocks and the obstacles, then it's hard. We're in a disadvantage to share that with others for their healing.
I also feel like, for me, that by going through the experiences I've been through and the life lessons, and then helping someone in a session or a reading,
Sure.
it's created healing for me through that process as well.
Oh, I
So,
completely agree. I used to have an old light worker friend. Like we all had those, right? The old psychics that were like in their 60s when we were young and gave us the sage advice. And
yeah,
hers, one of the things I loved that she used to say was, when you give a healing, you get a healing. And
that's
it's
so
so
true.
true. So when people
Yes.
say to me like, nah, don't you hate it with the like other, people that are not where they need to be, that are doing readings and stuff, saying, oh, it's so exhausting and the clients are terrible. It takes so much out of me. I'm the opposite. When I spend a day doing sessions, I'm like hyped up like a jackrabbit afterwards. I think that all of that channel, right, tapping in and the messages coming and feeling people getting their healing, that gets me really psyched to keep doing it.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And just also seeing, when someone comes to you, they have a stress to them, or they have an energy to them, and then at the end of the session, you can just kind of see it dissipated. You can see it
Yeah.
lifted and removed, and you can see their soul shining brighter. And
Yes.
I feel like it's such a wonderful reward and feeling that we're lucky enough to experience and have doing this.
Say that I completely agree. I always say that to clients, sometimes you feel lighter now, that
Yeah.
after the session or after a healing or whatever it is I'm doing, you can physically feel that they have lightened.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that, I don't know how you feel about this, but I want you to tell me, that light place, right? That place of light as a feather.
Yeah.
That's how we are when we're not embodied, right? We come to the earth as babies and we bring that lightness with us. And then we allow the three-dimensional world and other humans to sort of pile that heaviness onto us. And sometimes starting to really walk your path is about sort of unloading all that stuff that's been loaded on you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is, I always say, as the baby, right? We are still so connected to the spirit
Yeah.
world, right? We remember, we talk. That's why I think babies are so incredibly sensitive. But as we begin our work on the spiritual journey, yeah, you have to unload the trauma, the disappointments, the setbacks. You have to unload all of that baggage that we have built. But through that process, again, your mom is 1,000% right. We need that. How are we going to help someone else if we haven't been through it personally? Right. So I believe your mom is absolutely right about that. And the other thing is for us to kind of continue moving and growing through it, that's going to help us become our higher self as well, even in the physical realm.
Yes, very, very true. Yeah, and it's interesting because seeing her go through that process and work on lightening, and then being there when she passed, and actually seeing the lightness of her soul literally shoot out of her solar plexus, and the difference in what was left, what the body was when her soul was no longer there. If you're ever a disbeliever in the soul leaving the body, watch someone pass.
Yeah.
Because what's left is almost like it's like a husk. It doesn't even, you do not connect to it the way you connected to the living person. It's like, when your snake leaves its skin behind. And and I remember the nurse coming in, and I said, I think she's gone. And she checked the machines and came back and said, well, how do you know? And I said, well, it doesn't really feel like her anymore. And then she looked at me kind of strange, but it's true, right? Because this is really just a school uniform that we are wearing in this semester of soul school. It's not really anything else. It's just what we have to wear to go to school. Who we really are is the essence inside of us. And I think sometimes we overcorrect with our human experience, and we spend too much time not tapping into our souls, but worrying about all the external influences and stimulus around us on the earth.
Oh, yes. I think people get so wrapped up in their own thoughts or their fears, maybe what other people are thinking, maybe the pressures of society, family, and it's a shame that, what would if we didn't have to worry about money or responsibilities, what would we all be doing? What would life look like? And so I feel like playing with that a bit more helps to lead people to their life purpose. If you could let go of money, if you could let go of those responsibilities, what would you be doing? What would your life look like? And I feel like that's a guide then getting you towards, what your life purpose is. And then you start to sort out, okay, if that is my lifeline and my purpose, then how do, I make a living at it? How do I be able to take care of the finances and the responsibilities around it?
Absolutely. It's like being a real estate agent, right? It's great to have the flyers and the notepads you leave on the doors and the billboard and the vinyl strips on your car with your picture. But ultimately the goal is to sell the houses. And I think you have to keep your priorities straight. So on the earth, it's okay to worry about, am I pretty enough? Am I rich enough? Is this person going to love me? Does this friend like me? But ultimately, you got to make the sale, which is you've got to do the spiritual work. You have to be making sure that you're hitting all the markers you need to hit for your own ascension and evolution. All that other external stuff, that's okay if you want to worry about that. But it's just kind of the bells and whistles. It really isn't why we're here. And I think some people get so caught up in that, right? So sucked into the drama and the chaos and the worry of not being enough, that they let their spiritual lessons lapse as like, well, I'll get to the spirituality thing another day. When that's really why we should be here. And when you get connected and you grow and you ascend and you become more secure within yourself, then all that other stuff isn't as important to you. A lot of that angst goes away, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, is when you become more connected to yourself and your soul purpose and really in that connection, I believe that you start to feel more centered and grounded. There's just a sense of peace around you. And there's a sense of shifting of, I think holding your boundaries more. And the other thing I see too, though, is if someone does want to do this work, as we say, that they spend too much time comparing themselves to another. There's no need for that. I feel like, the reason Spirit chooses you to serve is because you're unique, because they need you. They don't need two of you. They just need you.
Yes.
And so I feel like when we each can maintain who we are without judgment for how someone else is doing it, or just kind of stay in our lane, so to speak, and serve Spirit the way Spirit wants us to, I feel like the doors keep opening, the opportunities keep presenting themselves, and the service feels light. The service feels positive. Being of service feels really good. And I do think that that's part of our journey here, is to be self-accepting, self-loving, to understand and to be understanding of someone else. I think too, I find so much judgment people have, thinking someone should be a certain way or act a certain way, rather than just letting people be who they are. And if you
Yes.
don't resonate with it, then that's okay. You can just kind of pull yourself away. You don't have to be, if it's something that's not in alignment with your core values and beliefs. But I feel like we try to micromanage too much, or each
Yes.
other in general,
Yeah. I call that the spiritual salad bar, because when you go to a salad bar, there's so many choices and you don't like all of them. So you take what you want and you put it on your
Mhm.
plate, and your friends do the same thing, and everybody in the restaurant does the same thing. And then everybody sits down and peacefully has a meal, and nobody is focusing with what's on anybody else's plate and how does it match your plate, and well, why did you get the onions and why did you get the chicken wings, and everybody just takes what they want and does their thing. And I think spiritually, I talk about this a lot during my spiritual services, if we could just allow each other spiritually to have that kind of freedom that you and I now are having a conversation. And if we sat down and had a big talk about all of our spiritual beliefs, we would find probably that many of them are the same. Some of them are different. Some of them are the same, but we talk about them in a different way. But
Yeah.
it doesn't change the fact that you're a being of light and I'm a being of light. And we're having a moment of connection right now. And others that are watching are connecting to it, or not. And that's okay. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just because you call yourself something, even if you only call yourself one thing, a Catholic, a Buddhist, a New Age person, what the details within that can be very, very different. And that's all right. We don't have to kind of toe any kind of party line when it comes to our spirituality or how our spirituality affects our day-to-day life, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like, again, if we just give ourselves a little more ease,
Yeah.
right? We're all a work in progress. Everyone is a work in progress. So I tell people, be kinder to yourself, be gentler with yourself, but also find what is your passion, what is your purpose. I do feel like that's part of our journey here, is to be able to go deeper. And you're right, going deeper, starting that spiritual uh meditation or journaling, automatic writing, anything to kind of tune into your soul more. Because when you're tuning into your soul, that's where the clarity is going to come in. The clarity is going to come in. Spirit, the universe are going to guide you. And I think we get too overwhelmed with our thoughts. Our ego mind really wants to sabotage us. And we do need
Yes.
that. We do need that ego mind for survival and such. But sometimes that ego mind and that negative Nelly talk really wants to take over. But when we
Yeah.
meditate and have a practice, a spiritual practice, then I do feel like we can kind of keep it at bay or understand it more. And again, I think it's just more about being accepting and self-loving to us, that you are on your spiritual journey. What does that mean? How can you learn to tune it in? How can you fine tune what you're doing? And I definitely feel like it helps you have more peace in your life as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not supposed to be that hard. I mean, that's the message that I always get from spirit is it is difficult and there are obstacles, but it's not supposed to be that hard. And sometimes we allow the monkey brain, right? Like you said, to
Yeah.
chatter, chatter, chatter in your ear and clink its little cymbals. And we allow it to be harder than it should be. Part of it, I think, is because we think, well, we're humans and we're the top of I don't have to listen to spirit. I'm a human being and I'm the top of the food chain on earth. And I always say, every time we say that, like a dolphin and an elephant laugh. But, we believe that we know everything because we're humans. My mama used to say human beings were just smart enough to be dangerous. We think we know everything. So we think, well, I have to listen to spirit. I know I'm a person because, spirit is infinitely old and I've been on the earth for 30 years. So I know everything. And we block out the help, right? We
Yeah.
weren't put here alone. You're not on this earth alone. We were put here with guidance from spirit, from guides, from the angelics, from our loved ones who have passed that have not reincarnated. We are full of love, and we're full of people, of beings that take care of us, in addition to the human connections and the animal connections that we make here. So I know a lot of times folks feel alone, but you are the farthest from alone. You make yourself alone by not allowing yourself to connect, right? By not answering your celestial email, by locking your ethereal door and not letting anything in. But we definitely are not alone, right?
No, absolutely not. We have so much love around us and so much connection. And it could be little things too. I mean, that's the surprising part of it. I think when people really allow themselves to understand the connection, you can connect to everything and anything, really. We always talk, I have this crazy thing with squirrels, right? As Sheena's like, I don't even, it's so, in fact, it started when I pretty much started going into the spiritual business aspect. I used to be a tax manager, and I was leaving that to really pursue this. And so I rented a house, and, almost 10 years ago, rented a house, and there was a squirrel there named Fred. And Fred would be at the window. So when I would do a reading, he'd come up to the window outside and just sit. You could just sit there and see him listening to the reading, listening to the energy or feeling the energy around him. And then I moved into another place. And sure enough, if there wasn't another squirrel there that I named Stan, and Stan would just kind of come up to the glass window, come all the time, knock on the glass. I mean, it was the craziest thing. So then about almost 2 years ago, I bought a condo here in LA. Now I'm up on the 3rd story. And I thought, well, it was the hardest thing, letting go of these squirrels, thinking there's not going to be any more squirrels. And sure enough, if there is not a squirrel that somehow figured out to come to the 3rd story, hang out, knocks on the window here. I mean, it's so fun. But, most people would think that you couldn't have a connection
right
to a wild animal, to a stray. And what we do, energy is energy. So whether it's animals, whether it's people, whether it's nature, we absolutely have the ability to make that connection and the ability to have that communication, even if it's telepathically.
Absolutely. I have the same thing with hummingbirds.
Oh, yeah.
My mom had it, and after she passed, it passed to me. And whenever I'm in any kind of distress, the hummingbird shows up. And my old radio studio that were you first on my show and you were there was 4 stories up. And about the first 6 months after my mom passed, people would say, I've never seen a hummingbird up this high. It would just come and it would just hover like by where I was. Everywhere. Once I was cleaning out, and we had been in that house but me.
Wow.
I went to the back bathroom, and there was a hummingbird just sitting on the vanity light in the bathroom. I mean, how did it get there? Why was it there? And it wouldn't leave. I had to finally cut the screen out of the window and close the door, hoping it would leave, and it finally did. But I see them all the time, and they're here to give you messages, right? Not just support, but messages that you need to follow spirit and not get caught up in your 3-dimensional stuff. So when I see one, I realize, something's going on, and I just need to just do it. And I think a lot of times, because birds are transmediums, right? I think a lot of times my mom is kind of in the bird. I think she pops into the bird and out of the bird, because I think animals in general, but birds specifically, right? They will just step out and let anybody in. Yeah. So it's interesting. We have to watch those signs and realize that that's just part of the universe watching out for us.
Oh, absolutely. And I do. I just feel like, when we open up, and that's the thing, people will say, I can't feel, or I don't get anything, or there's nothing there for me, or my loved one's not around me.
Sure.
And it's like, yes, your loved one is around you. And yes, the universe is giving you messages. And yes, they are connecting and communicating, but we have to really work on opening our awareness. Yes. Right? You won't receive anything if your awareness is not expanded. And there are things a lot of people can do to expand their awareness. One of the things I always tell my students, be nosy. I want you to be nosy. Be curious. When you go to a restaurant, eavesdrop. What is the energy you're picking up? What's the conversation going on? Tune into the feeling of it. When you wake up in the morning and you're laying in bed, just feel your body. What does your body feel like? What's the energy of your body? Then imagine, what does the outside look like? What does the day look like? Is it windy? Are you hearing anything? Are you hearing sounds, whether it's birds, squirrels, trash, whatever it is? So that's going to help us overall expand our senses and really heighten them. And the more heightened your senses are, the more, like you said, you're going to pick up those messages from the universe. What are they saying? What are they giving you? And I always say, too, don't overthink it. What's the first thing that pops in? Right? If you have a thought of a person, it's that person. If you have a thought of a message, it's that message. So it really is about listening to it.
And also about tuning into the environment around you to realize that we're just a tiny part of the whole that is everybody on this planet. I grew up an actor, and there's an acting experiment you do in acting school, very similar to that, where you kind of just wander through your day and you write down everything you see and you observe people and you observe animals. When we're unhappy, right, when we're disconnected from self, we get very stuck like on the hamster wheel. And we can't get off, and we're just thinking about our problems and who doesn't like me and why isn't this working and why am I too fat, and we're not looking around us and realizing that we are part of everything.
Yeah.
And of course you can observe something and something comes into your brain psychically. Of course you can feel empathy for the birds on the street fighting over the breadcrumb, because we are part of the everything. I know it's a very Buddhist philosophy, right? That we are everything and everything is us, and God is everything in us, and we are everything with God. But it's kind of, Buddha kind of had the right idea there. It's kind of groovy, so that we don't think of ourselves that we're on this solo trip, right? Where I got to do it all myself, and I'm just, carrying a heavy pack on my back through the snow. No, we're all doing it. And when you see two people having coffee and they're smiling, the energy of that smile also goes into you.
Yes.
That should make you happy, just as part of the whole, and less as these solitary beings that have been put here as punishment. I mean, it changes your whole perspective on life, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you start to really feel that connection with someone, and that joy, that light, whether you're giving or receiving, it really is beautiful. Definitely beautiful.
Now, how long have you been doing your radio show?
My radio show, my goodness, I'm going to say about 8 years now. I can't believe it's been that long, but I've been doing this for about 10. And I think it was about 2 years in that I started to do a radio show.
And was that your first time doing anything like that?
Yeah, no, it was my first time having a radio show. Yeah, so first time just saying, look, let me talk to people, let me do it. So I did it through a different couple platforms, but yeah, it's at least 8 years. It's so crazy. It's been that long, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's a very spiritual thing, right? I never knew before I sat behind a microphone and did radio what a spiritual thing it was, because the radio waves, right? When I started, it was actually the radio waves, AM and then FM. Now it's the cyber waves, right? It's still a wave. It carries energy. So you are literally carrying your energy to someone else and doing like rapid healing of people within an hour or 2 hours or however long a show is. I was surprised spiritually how spiritual of an experience it was going to be. Did you find that to be the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I find, it's so interesting when I do my show, it goes by so quickly. Like, I'm always can't believe how quickly it goes, because it's such a beautiful experience talking to people or taking callers on air or interviewing. It's, you're just in that space where, you can feel that healing being facilitated.
Yeah.
The messages are coming in. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh my goodness, the time is up. Wow, I can't believe it happened so quickly. So,
Right. Yeah.
But it is a lot of work. I mean, that it certainly is, a labor of love in many ways, to
Sure.
show up and to be, to have the things and then to post them and to take the time. But it's definitely worth it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's such a wonderful way it's like teaching, right? But instead of 30, 40, 50 people in a class, you have thousands of people in the class. And you're
Yes.
just sharing messages. And
Mm-hmm.
it's such a wonderful way, because I'm all about give back. I think for all of the wonderful things that have happened in my life and how grateful I am, I want to make sure that I'm giving back.
Yeah.
And a beautiful way to give back is to be able to share messages and share beautiful people like you, with a bunch of different people, thousands of people that can all sort of get that rapid healing for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. I think that's that people that do radio don't realize how important that is. I did radio back in the day on what was the Howard Stern affiliate at the time. And because we were girls, we got the glamorous time slot of 3 to 5 a.m. And I did that for years. It was a killer on myself. It's a hard schedule to do.
Oh, yeah.
But I have to tell you, those were the people that needed us, right? The truck drivers that would call in, the longshoremen, the nurses working the third shift. I mean, all of these folks that security guards that basically had very lonely jobs and needed to be able to touch base with someone.
Yeah.
And I realized at a very quickly into radio what a spiritual experience it is to be able to help people, even if you're just making people laugh or making them think. It doesn't always have to be lofty spiritual messages, right? Sometimes it can just be fun, but it's still healing, because there's healing in all those things.
Oh, absolutely. And what a gift that is. Think of how excited your listeners were when it was their time to come on. Like, they were looking forward to starting their shift because you were going to be on it, because you were going to be a part of their day. And I think that's such a beautiful gift that you have,
Yeah. Yeah. And we would have, I remember there was this group of longshoremen in Long Beach, and they would call in at like 4:30 in the morning before they were getting ready to start their day. And they would say, you know what, we got nothing. Well, I'm driving to work. I've got nothing. There's nothing going on. There's nobody around. And we look forward to like just sitting and listening to the two of you talk about anything. And that's the most important thing, I think, that we realize, that for people who are trying to tap into their gifts, right? And they think, my gifts aren't enough. I don't know enough. I'm not as experienced as Colby or as Sheena. I don't really know what I'm doing. I always say it's not about that. It's about just start talking. And just start helping people, and just turn on your phone and share messages with people. Just the things that you're getting, because the things you're getting from spirit, and you're going to reach somebody, only if it's one person to start. But the most important thing, if you don't, right, it's the most important thing, because if you don't, it's like the tree falling in the forest that no one hears. It's the essential thing is that you just get out there and you just start sharing your messages. And it's a muscle, right? Your psychic skills are a muscle like anything else. The more you use them, the stronger they get.
Oh, yeah, they're spiritual muscles. And that's the thing, is that, people don't realize that you can develop them, you can build them, you can strengthen them. The other thing, too, is I'm always encouraging my students to work on all their clairs, all of their senses, not just one. A lot of times someone will say, I'm a clairvoyant, so they're receiving messages by seeing. But I can assure you, they probably are hearing and feeling and knowing as well. So when we can strengthen all of them, it's the same as the physical body. You have your bicep, but your arm is going to be shapely when you do the shoulder, the bicep, and the tricep, when it's all together. And we need our arms with our legs. Like, all of it together is just more tools in the toolbox that we can utilize. And that's just going to help you kind of make that spirit message more three-dimensional, right? It's going to, the more tools you have with it, the more you can almost make it tangible in the physical world, which is just very, very cool to do.
Absolutely true. When you're working with students, what do you find in the beginning when you first start working with them are some of their blocks for why they're not moving forward on their path, why they're not utilizing their abilities and all that they are? What are some of the things that you think that we grow up with three-dimensionally that block us from being able to take this journey?
Well, I definitely feel like self-doubt. I feel like people just have so much fear and self-doubt and lack of confidence. I also feel like, in a way, society, and it's getting better, thank goodness. But really, when you and I were younger too, this was so taboo. No one was going to talk about being sensitive. No one was going to talk about being connected. And,
Yeah.
I think the
Mm-hmm.
idea the 70s and Woodstock was as close as it was getting to people feeling connected and loved to one another, right? But
Yes.
I feel like, and I do think that sometimes, as we get older, you get into the school element, and maybe you're talking what seems to be talking to yourself, but you're talking to spirit. Kids may make fun of you, so then you stop doing it. Or,
Yes.
you have a bad dream, so you call your parents in and they tell you it's just a monster. Let's get rid of the monster, rather than saying, oh, that's your grandfather. Let's just send him a lot of
Right.
love.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So
Right.
I feel like, but I do want to say, in that regard, I personally see such a shift. I see parents really wanting to encourage kids' gifts. For the most part, I do see people being much more open to something like this, much more open to understanding that, yes, there has to be something more than our physical selves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do feel like people are becoming a lot more open and a lot more aware. And I do see people wanting to take more social responsibility for their own energy, for wanting to kind of tune in or learn to tune in or learn to kind of connect in their own way. And that's the other thing too, is that people, I think they put too much pressure on themselves. Well, I can't do that professionally. And it's like, you don't have to do it professionally. Just do it
Yeah.
for yourself. Do it for
Yeah.
your life. Do it for your own energy, your mindset, your peace. And you're going to see your life is a lot more abundant by doing it than kind of not doing it.
Exactly. And I will say, I will take a leap and say, don't do it because you want to do it professionally.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
if you do it and you love it and it turns out it's a thing that you can ease into and do professionally, amazing. But
Yeah.
don't go into it thinking, oh, I'm gonna make a ton of cash and I'm gonna have my own show and people are gonna think I'm amazing. First of all, then spirit will be like whoop, and then it all gets
Yeah.
shut down because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how it works. It's a privilege, not a right. But
Right.
also
Yeah.
it's just the wrong way to grow your gifts. You don't grow your gifts. You don't go to college to make a lot of money. You go to a college for enrichment, hoping that afterwards you'll get a job that will take care of your bills. And then maybe someday you'll make a lot of money. And I think it's the same thing with the spiritual gifts. You're doing it for your own spiritual enrichment and your own interconnectedness.
Yeah.
And then let it grow and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just feel like being at peace with your journey. Like, sometimes people feel they're too behind the eight ball, right? Or they wasted too much time, or they're too old to make a transition now. Or again, the guilt because they don't know the exact thing they want to do. They just know they're meant for something more or something different. And I feel like just start it. You're never too old. It's never too late to start something new, or to be who you're meant to be, or to try something new. It's, again, I think we let fear really paralyze us. I think we let fear really dominate us from taking chances and playing and enjoying. And I think the more we can play and tap in and work on our own enrichment, and the more we can really make those connections, either for ourselves or for another, I just feel that you're going to feel more in balance. You're going to feel so much more connected to this whole experience, your soul experience and your physical experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. And I think um, I was going to say anything you do, but maybe not. Maybe there are people that work jobs they don't feel spiritually invested in, although I think I feel spiritually invested in everything I do. Everything should be about getting you on your path, right? Everything should be about you growing and ascending and evolving,
Yes.
lifting your vibration. When you do all that, when you get in touch with your gifts, and people use their gifts every day. I have a friend who uses her gifts and she's a nurse.
Yes.
I have a friend who uses her gifts and she's a mom. I mean, people use gifts in all different kinds of ways.
Yeah.
It's just important for you to find you. And then if you go down the line, think, you know what, I might like to throw some cards, do some readings, maybe teach a little class. Wonderful. But the most important thing about getting on your path is just getting on your path. And I think people look at someone like you or someone like me and they think, how long have you been doing it? But, decades before I even considered doing this as my life, I was doing it just to do it, just for my own human enrichment. And in everything, right? It helped me as an actor. It helped me as a radio host. If you are a more connected person, then it is easier for you to connect to everything you need to, whether as an actor, it was a character or other people that were in a play with me or a band that I was in or my guests or, I feel like I tell people that this is always who I've been. It's just now I'm like that tour Madonna did where she wore her underwear on the outside. Like it's nothing different. It's just now people see it more. But it should be, your spirituality should be the captain of your ship, right? It should be what propels you forward.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the one thing too, just kind of going back is, I think so many people really are gifted and you don't necessarily have to do this. Why not?
Right.
Everyone, doctors, nurses, police officers.
Sure.
I feel like so many professions really are sensitive people and people who are tapping in and tuning in and knowing, can something be done or not be done, or helping or compassion, empathy, whatever it needs. So that's why I feel like we could be doing so many things. We just happen to have chosen this, or Spirit has chosen us to do this particular role.
Absolutely.
But it could be anything from a therapist to a teacher to think about it. There's so many. Even think about, entertainers, singers, and how much their music and sound, helps people. The lyrics maybe help you get through something. That's tapping in. That's energy. That's connecting.
A lot of it is your energy, your specific energy, the energy of the songwriter, the energy of the singer, the energy of the musicians. It becomes like a jambalaya of energy.
Yes.
And if any of those people on that song changed, it would be different. Just the same way that you can go to a restaurant and order the same thing 3 different times of the day, and it will taste different depending on who the chef is.
Exactly.
And the ingredients are all the same because they have instructions to use the same ingredients. It's that the energy of that person that they're putting in as they're actually touching that food that you're eating is in what you're eating.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, maybe you like one donut shop better than the other because the person who's making the donuts, you like their energy better.
Yeah.
I think if we thought of everything like that, the world would be so much more connected and we would all be so much more happy because everything we did, we would think of it as this delicious little energy bowl. In reality, right, your cell phone has a crystal in it. So even it is spiritual. I mean, your cell phone is, people always say, how does Facebook know what I'm doing? And then they offer me an ad for something when I'm talking about it. Well, maybe because your cell phone is powered by a crystal. So it's basically in itself a very psychic object.
Yeah.
It's all around us. And that's the fun. What are you loving that you love about teaching?
What do I love about teaching? I
What's
love
the thing you're loving right now?
I love when I'm teaching. I love when I see the confidence build in my students' energy. Because
Nice.
they're all connected. So whether I'm helping them at a beginner's level, an advanced level, maybe with their spiritual business, when I work with them initially and then I progress with them to see that transition, to see that evolution of them knowing that they could do this or feeling like, yes, I am connecting or I am understanding it or seeing that growth in that process. Yeah, I just feel like that to me is what's really most rewarding around it. I really do. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's like finding people, finding their way back to them, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just again, like I think I just find that so many people, the fear, the worry, the insecurity, they allow it to dominate. And so I kind of go in and we just peel away those layers so that we reveal their true self and remind them how powerful they are. And I feel like that in itself just makes a big, big difference.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I was just talking to a guest about this on one of my radio shows this week, that we're sort of born perfect. And
Yeah.
then we allow the world, and by that I mean mostly humans, to sort of convince us that we're not, and that
Yeah.
everything we are is not okay. And then we sort of spend the rest of our life trying to, like you said, peel away those layers
Yes.
and find our way back to us.
Yes.
And I think that is that is sort of the goal of the soul school, right? But I mean, it's like school. You go to school thinking you know things. You learn there are many things that you do know, but there are things you don't know, and you walk away a more enlightened person and an educated person. And I think doing the spiritual work is the exact same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And I think too, if people enjoy the ups and downs. I mean, you really do learn so much from the setbacks. You learn so much from the difficult situations. You learn so much from your mistakes. And I feel like rather than kind of be so hard on yourself when those things happen, really look at them to kind of go, okay, I'm stronger and I'm rising above and I'm moving past it. And I feel like, that helps us strengthen our soul core.
Yeah, I agree. And the stronger we are, the less we are allowing ourselves to be influenced by negative energy, negativity in people.
Yes.
We're staying in a glass half full mentality and not allowing ourselves to get in that scarcity consciousness of a glass half empty mentality.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The more you know, right? They say the more you know, the more you know, the more when someone tries to tell you you're doing it wrong, you have the confidence to say, no, I'm not doing it wrong. I'm good. I'm on the right path and I'm doing my
I've
thing.
got this. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Yes.
right where I belong.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that is so important. And I think it's so wonderful the way that you, my friend, are molding lovely beings, right? That know that they could be more and come to you to become more. I mean, you're really kind of like a fitness trainer for the soul.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
In many ways.
Exactly. Yeah, which
You're
is
a fitness trainer
quite
for the
an
soul,
honor and a
right?
blessing.
I mean, it's
Yes.
It's awesome. We're almost out of time, so to please tell my viewers everything that you're doing and where they can find you online and some of the different things they can expect if they work with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so anyone can head on over to colbyrebel.com. That's where you can either book a session, you can sign up for a class. The social media handles are at Psychic Rebel. There's only one, so just make sure you find the right one, which is me. And I'm really excited. I'm teaching a beginner's platform class, but I'm also teaching a Raise Your Vibration workshop coming up,
Love
which is
it.
yeah, just so many people, they say, oh, how do I raise my vibration? What does that mean? So it's going to be a nice 2-hour workshop, just giving you some tools to use and utilize and some practice on how to understand what does it feel like to raise your vibration. What does that mean? And then that muscle memory will start to kick in for people to take it on. So there's a lot going on. Super excited. I have my podcast on Thursdays at 5. And it's a beautiful experience. So it's been so great being here with you today, Sheena.
That's wonderful. I have a nonprofit, raisingthevibration.org. It's a peace, love, kindness, unity nonprofit that I founded when my mom died, which ironically was 6 years ago today.
Oh, wow.
I just felt like I was raised in the raising of the vibration school. And when I first started talking about it, people didn't even really know what I was saying or what that meant. But now people are really getting it. So I love that you're carrying that on, because I really believe that the key to world peace, and I'm one of those that really believes world peace is possible. I'm that crazy Aries, is that if we all can lift our vibrations high enough to then help others around to do the same, then the Earth's vibration and the global vibration and the universal vibration raises, right? And then we all have better lives. We're all healthier people and happier people, and we're all better to each other.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think that's such an important thing. My friend, what an honor to have you here. We'll have to do this again. I would love it. You're always so full of wit and wisdom to share with the world, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. This has been really great, and I can't wait to see you again, Sheena. So thank you again very, very much.
You bet. I'll see you soon, my friend. The wonderful Colby Rebel, everybody. If you missed any of the information on her, you can visit me at sheenametalspiritual.com or find me everywhere on social media. I'm just at Sheena Metal. And the nonprofit is raisingthevibration.org. If that interests you, and you can find my radio shows and this show that I'm so very proud of at KGRA, and all the other things that I'm doing just by going to sheenametalspiritual.com or finding me somewhere on Facebook. Until I see you next time, my friends, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always raise your vibration, and know that I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time with a wonderful guest on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. It's the Sheena Metal Experience, and I'm Sheena Metal. It's my show, but it's your experience. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, Colby. I appreciate it.